But yeah, when
are you about ready to give me a question that leads to people are getting ready to walk out?
Oh, shit.
I mean, kind of,
It's
I
a mass
guess.
walkout.
If you would just let me talk, maybe IDK. So
Superman, nerves of steel. Like, that shit doesn't exist in this generation. Like, they don't have nerves of steel. They do not have thick skin, and they think it's okay to live like that. And I'm like, man, life is going to smack you 20 ways to Sunday. If my brain is racing at the end of the day, it's racing with thoughts and ideas. Generally, if your brain is in that mode, it will not let them go until you find a way to let them go. So write them down, and your brain will let go of them. Everybody brings good and bad to the table, and as long as you bring more good than bad, then you're worth talking to, you're worth trying to work it out with. And we are back with another episode of The Julius Files. I am your host, Jason Julius, and we are doing a Q and JP. And as I tell everybody, it's because I'm not here to give you answers. I'll give you perspective. I can give you the Julius perspective. And I'm full of perspective, and I do like that it has that I've seen people find their own answers out of it. Today, I have two co-hosts, Trish and Tori. And again, we're skipping the nicknames because, I mean, heck, I've even got a question. When my video editor asked me to ask a question himself, and I got a little bit to say about him and that. But let's get right down to it. Miss Tori, do you have a question for me?
yeah, so since we're jumping straight in, we're obviously in food and beverage. So we have, a lot of employees. Sometimes our employees get frustrated. So,
I mean, at this point, like, we're in food and beverage, and we're in digital marketing, and we are in textile and apparel.
I personally only deal with coffee junkies, okay?
Okay.
So,
Well, no, and podcasting, you cannot forget podcasting.
well, I don't think any of us three are about to walk out. So, but yeah, when our
Are you about ready to give me a question that leads to people are getting ready to walk out?
Oh, shit.
I mean, kind of,
It's
I
a
guess.
mass walkout.
If you would just let me talk, maybe IDK. So I don't know. We have a lot of employees. A lot of the employees will get frustrated at times, and sometimes we all just need to go take a little break. But how do you deal with more of like a job abandonment scene where they walk out, they don't really say anything, they just walk in the next day like nothing happened? There's not really like an apology or a clock out or any conversation of, oh, I need to go take a break, I need some space. Yeah, how should I react to that?
I mean,
it's happened a few times that I've been in charge.
It's
Four.
I mean, I'm not going to deny that in previous generations and day and ages that that's just a flat, like, you have job abandonment, you walk off your job, it's done and done. This generation seems to feel that they're allowed to be all up in their feelings.
They're allowed to have their feelings.
Yes.
Their feelings are valid.
Yes. No, and and don't get me wrong. The thing is feelings are valid, and everybody leads with feelings. That was why I put that process in place of having a store manager meet with each employee bi-weekly to give them a chance to have feedback so that you would not be all up in your feelings. And when things started coming up in your feelings, that you would understand, I'm going to have the opportunity to voice my concerns. So don't make bad decisions based on your feelings in the here and now. It still happens. And more often, I'm going to say more often than not in the organization, it happens with females. But I mean, when we are like a 70-30 female organization, obviously it's going to happen more with females just by the law of the numbers that are actually in the group, because it happens with males too. That's what.
Yeah, only one of my four has been a female.
Yeah.
The other three were all males,
and
for what it's worth.
And again, a lot of it is this generation and this generation's weakness. Like, this generation, like the Superman, nerves of steel, like, that shit doesn't exist in this generation. Like, they don't have nerves of steel. They do not have thick skin, and they think it's okay to live like that. And I'm like, man, life is going to smack you 20 ways to Sunday. And if you think you're going to be allowed to live your life sensitively like that, like, you are a prime candidate for exactly what the pharmaceutical industry is looking for, because they're going to be like, yeah, we got a pill for that. Like, we will give you these pills, and we will fog up your brain so much that you won't be that sensitive and you won't be offended, but you'll never develop any nerves. You'll never develop thick skin. You'll never develop the reality of life is not fair. That's not a reason not to live it anyway. And in going back to your question, I'm like, I don't know that there is a right answer other than...
It's a perspective, not an answer.
No, well, but you're... Good point. The point that I'm trying to make is don't make assumptions. Most of the employees that were like... If we're talking about an employee that has been with us less than 90 days, job abandonment, get them out. You got to send a message to the group that we're not tolerating that. And if you think that that's okay and you're willing to display that in the first 90 days, like you're probably not going to fit into our group because not only are we a high functioning group, like generally a pretty tough group.
Yeah.
That said, if you've got somebody that has been with us for years, everybody deserves the benefit of the doubt. You I don't want to say do an investigation, but you do an inquiry to find out what's going on, find out what their perspective was or how they saw things. Don't jump to conclusions and try and lead it to the best case scenario while also making it very clear. Like as a small business, we have hours of coverage to make sure that our customers are always our primary priority, and you can't short staff the group because it's staffed for what we think is going to come in business in general. So you can't just walk because you're all up in your feelings in that moment. I don't care if it's 15 or 30 minutes. Like, it's not cool. You're not supporting your teammates. You're not making sure the customers are taken care of. Thereby, you're not protecting your job security. And I'm just being honest about it. But we have turned into more of a sensitive population of people. And while I refuse to change and buckle to that sensitivity, it does not mean that I'm not willing to say, you know what, somebody has given me X years of their life, and it is at least worth not jumping to conclusions and making assumptions and literally inquiring to find out what's the whole story, what's the whole picture. Is there a way that we can rectify this and course correct without trashing the relationship? Because at the end of it, you still got to come down to, like, you can't do that. We like the team depends on every member of the team being there. The customers depend on that level of customer service, and we're supposed to be known for exceptional customer service. You can't offer exceptional customer service if you're shorthanded, especially by the people that have earned their place in the organization by being there for years. So it's a gray area. I don't see it as a black and white issue, especially with somebody that has given us time. And I mean, come on, you've given me several years of your life, and you have not been the perfect princess.
I have one mess up.
You know what? I'm not gonna. That there could be some debate there, but that debate would come, and the bigger picture is that you've grown a ton. And anytime that there was ever any type of issue in general, I'm taking into consideration the amount of time and how much growth and maturity and what you bring to the table on the overall. And that stuff has to be factored in because, again, life is about connectivity and relationships. I value those relationships. So that is you can't have your cake and eat it too. Not everything is all roses in life, and everybody has bad days. And I'm just a big believer that everybody brings good and bad to the table. And as long as you bring more good than bad, then you're worth talking to. You're worth trying to work it out with. It is with the point where you hit that tipping point of you're bringing more bad than good. Okay, well, maybe this relationship has ran its course and it's time to end this relationship, because it's really hard to try and work on a relationship when there is literally more bad than good being brought to the table. Because at that point, you've made a conscious decision to turn toxic. And once that toxicity reaches a level of being the majority, like, that's a really good cue that it's time to just end the relationship in general. And I know where the question is coming from, and I don't think that we are at that level with that individual. But I have seen it a couple times, and I've seen that were really good people come to the table, and they gave us a lot for a long time, and for whatever reason, they decided that they were going to turn toxic, and that was the cue to end the relationship and just move on. Because that's the thing. A lot of people will have bad days, and they bring it to work, and they take it out on their work environment, and then there's supposed to be a level of maturity assigned to somebody that is a good team member. And if all you're going to do is take out your bad day on your teammates, or the company that's employing you, well, then maybe it's time for you to have blind change. And by that, I mean you're going to go somewhere else and you're going to inject yourself into a new environment, and you're likely going to find out you probably shouldn't have done that shit in the previous environment that you were in. But that's everybody's going to learn lessons. It's just a question of how hard are they going to learn that lesson. And so, there's my perspective.
Because it's not an answer, it's a perspective.
No, it's a perspective. Because I rarely do walk into situations where I just have an answer or a predetermined, this is how this is going to go. I really do try and have an open mind, and hopefully this in particular issue is able to be course corrected.
I hope so.
Yep, time will tell. But okay, moving on, Miss Trish, what question do you have today?
You've been under a lot of stress lately. We all know you have. You bought some businesses, company turnover bullshit going on with employees, people doing stuff.
And I'm not special, because that is facts of business and entrepreneurship. But
So how do you remain so fluid in situations like this? That was my other question. Great minds think alike.
Well, and here's the thing. I really think that a lot of this comes back down to my morning routine, because it starts my day positively. And I know that you're going to have bumps of the road throughout the entire day as it goes. I mean, like, that's the whole point. Life is not fair. You still have to live it anyway. The thing is, I was having this conversation with my massage therapist, because I was thinking today, hey man, this podcast is going to go pretty good. I just got my massage. So many people struggle with accountability. Why do they struggle with accountability? Because they struggle with personal accountability. Nobody wants to hold themselves accountable. You don't want to hold yourself accountable for your health. You want to just turn that shit over to the doctors. And that's where I think that you're dumb, because the doctors just want to work you into the same way the garbage food industry wants to work you into a tunnel of not being healthy and consuming all their BS with preservatives. The doctors want to work you into the pharmaceutical industry where you're dependent on all of their pills. I take my personal health very seriously. So I do have a morning routine. And part of that morning routine is about my mental and physical health. I do go to a massage therapist, and part of that is about my mental and my physical health. And I mean, I'm seeing your grin, but I mean, I want to be clear about this, because the thing is I told her that, I mean, I was having people that were giving me a hard time about it. And again, because I'm personally accountable. My health, I take as a personal, serious thing. I'm 47. Sooner or later, I'll be 57 and 67. The things that I do today are going to determine the quality of life I have in 10, 15, and 20 years. And I take that very seriously, and I hold myself personally accountable. No way I turn over that responsibility to a doctor. Don't trust him. The point being, what I do to take care of myself doesn't cost any more. So don't look at me and be like, oh, well, you're an entrepreneur and you have the money for that. No, it's about where I choose to direct my money. The money that I spend for my personal accountability for my health does not cost me any more than it costs you or anybody else making $30, $40, $50, $60, $70,000 a year. It's where I choose to spend my money, and I choose to spend my money on vitamins and minerals and protein supplements and chiropractors and massage therapists and books and workout equipment, because I need all of those things in order to feel good mentally and physically, because I can't carry the burden and the load of the stress that I take on as an entrepreneur if I'm not mentally and physically up for the challenge. That's where 9 out of 10 fail in the first year of the one that makes it. 9 out of 10 fail in the first 10 years. Well, there is a plethora of reasons as to why people fail, but one of those reasons is people can't take the pressure. They can't take the pressure because they're not holding themselves personally accountable for being mentally and physically fit and strong enough to handle the actual pressure that comes along with entrepreneurship and the inevitable fires that you have to put out and the problems that you have to solve and the puzzles that you have to put together. All of those things, like the really successful entrepreneurs, hold themselves personally accountable for their mental and their physical health, because they know that they need that strength in order to endure and deal with the pressure that comes from the day-to-day of being responsible for a business that deals with vendors and customers and employees and government agencies, and competing with other businesses, like, yes, that's high stress shit. I am ambitious AF. That's the part of me where I'm like, it's that internal motor inside of me that never actually shuts off. I don't know whether it's a blessing or a curse, but I know that motor is there. And as long as I take good care of myself mentally and physically, then that motor is stronger and stronger. And that's how I win. So when you talk about all of the things that I'm having to endure, I mean, I'm not going to deny. Last week, I was in the middle of a meeting, and by 1 p.m., when I'm literally starting to wear down, I'm like, something's not right. And then I look back, and I'm like, well, I had to deal with an issue the previous week. That entire issue bled me. Every day for 4 to 8 hours of 6 to 7 days in my day of 8 to 12 hours, depending on what the day, like the majority of that day bled me because of the issues that I was having to deal with. And it was a good indicator that I needed to be very conscious about the amount of sleep that I was getting to make sure that I was not allowing myself to wear down and to get beat down in the actual grind, because it affects the next day and the next day and the next day. And you literally have to get up every day knowing your job is to put one foot in front of the other and keep it moving forward. And then I get into I'm going to segue into my video editor's question, because I think the world of this dude. And because I made a comment to him, I was like, depression is a very ugly thing.
Yeah.
Well, how do you beat depression? You run from it. And I'm not saying run away from a problem. I'm saying you always keep it moving forward. You keep running and moving forward, and you will outrun depression. Stop moving, and depression will catch up to you, and it will make you feel like it got you. Then you're going to have to fight it off and then run further, faster to get away from it.
Well, they say still waters run stagnant.
There you go. And that's a great analogy for it, where maybe somebody's like, oh, that's not how depression works, or, oh, that's what my pills are for. Fine. I am a mentally tough, healthy individual, and I look at it as, you know what? I've battled depression from time to time. And when I look at it, it's that time I stopped moving forward, and I got stagnant, and it was allowed to catch up with me. And I'm always trying to keep it pushing. I'm trying to get further, faster every day. And as long as I continually get up every day to get further, faster, like, depression's not going to catch up with me. It's not that fast. Depression is what slows down and rots you and consumes you in a very slow, never-ending manner. No, I'm trying to keep it moving where that shit never catches up with me. And then anxiety is my friend. Yeah. It tells me when I've got a problem I need to run to, like a fireman. You run to that fire. Okay, anxiety tells me where the fire is that I need to run to, where I look where other people talk about weaknesses, and I'm like, okay, well, how can I turn them into strengths, or how can I keep those weaknesses further away from me? But my video editor, Allah, and like I said, I think the world of this dude, because he watches, like, this dude truly gets a true look behind the scenes, because he sees all the raw content. And I see his personal learning and development and growth through watching all of that raw content. But his question was, how do you turn off your brain to get good sleep? And I mean, there are many people, that they're going to tell you many things. And I mean, all I can do is try and give you many ways. My thing is that the best, easiest way for me to get great sleep is to run so hard that when I get to the end of the day, like, all I do is fall into bed and bam, I'm out. Yeah. Like, and that happens more often than not. But I'm also not going to deny that, like, if I want to slow down at the end of the day, I'll read. Like, I always read at the beginning of the day, because I'm drinking my coffee and I'm focusing and I'm trying to feed my brain at the beginning of the day. If I read at the end of the day, I start nodding off. Like, one of the surest ways for me to fall asleep is to sit down and try and read at the end of the day. Meditation is another way that literally meditation is about calming the mind and blocking out all of the BS. And I'm a big proponent of anything that you can do naturally, like, you don't need pills for these types of things. And then, don't get me wrong, I mean, you want to be clear about it. There are some people that, I mean, alcohol will slow things down so that you can fall asleep. And I'm not going to deny that I've had times where I have drank because I'm not an excess person. You give me a couple drinks and like I'm going to get a buzz and I'll drift off to sleep. If I do that for days, by day 4 or day 5, I'm messing up my sleep, and then now I can't sleep. So in a single day, that might work for a minute. Like stack that multiple days, and that's not going to work. And so I'm not going to tell you that that's a healthy thing. Other people will pick up a joint. I mean, pot's a good way for your brain to slow down so that you can just kind of drift off. And I'm saying that because I'm like, I am not going to talk about any other drugs that are out there because as a union rep, I had to represent a lot of people, and I'm like, I've seen functioning alcoholics. You do you, it's a free country. I've seen functioning potheads. I have never seen anybody attempt to do any other drug where they were able to function. That drug was always stronger than they were, and inevitably it ended up destroying their life, or they smartly got away from it in general. I do know that there are some natural herbs out there that you can actually take for melatonin and to kind of calm things down. But the point is I battle that. My brain races. If my brain is racing at the end of the day, it's racing with thoughts and ideas. Generally, if your brain is in that mode, it will not let them go until you find a way to let them go. So write them down, and your brain will let go of them. And I'm just trying to, like, I don't have all of the answers in general, but these are the things that I try and do if I'm trying to get my brain to stop or slow down. And then one of the worst that I am most guilty for, I watch brain dead content.
Yeah.
I
call it junk TV.
Yes, really. Yeah. It truly is. And sometimes it's TikTok because I mean, like, there's such good and bad. Like, I mean, I've watched some shit on TikTok that, I mean, like, it's all generally, but it's good for a little bit of amusement and entertainment in very short stints. But I have found in particular shows that I would watch that I'm like there's nothing to this show whatsoever. For whatever reason, I like the storyline and the characters. I don't have to put any thought into it.
Yeah.
And about the time that I feel my eyes get heavy, that's okay. I accomplished my goal. Click, turn off. Now I'm ready to go to bed. Everybody has their own way of actually doing it. I'm just a proponent of do it in healthy ways, because like one of the most unhealthiest way to go to sleep is to gorge. Like because that's so horrible for your body, because then your digestive system is working overtime while you're trying to sleep. But if you gorge, generally you'll fall asleep. That ain't no different than, I mean, like what do people do after dinner? They go take a nap, and sometimes that nap falls into actually dinner itself. I'm talking about ways that it makes it happen. I'm not suggesting that. If I've gotten in those moments where I felt that hunger, I'm Metamucil.
Yeah.
Orange, I like the flavor, and it's fiber, so it helps keeps things flowing. And you take a little bit of Metamucil in a 32-ounce cup, and you drink a 32-ounce cup of water with a little bit of fiber in it, you will get that full feeling. I know that might sound a little bit odd, but that's one of the ways. If that's what I said, one of the ways that I overcome the hunger feeling while also giving my stomach that bloatedness. And it's like something turns in your brain where you're like, okay, I accomplished that goal. And it could just be water. I mean, more often than not in the middle of the night, I'll wake up in the middle of the night parched, and I'll chug 32 ounces of water. Okay, I'm gonna roll right back over and go back to sleep. I don't think that there's any one answer for anybody, but the healthy answers though are, most people fall asleep if you read at night. I
always find myself when I'm really stressed out, take a really hot shower.
Yeah.
And then they make lavender lotion. Put a little lavender lotion, especially like for little kids and stuff like that, knocks their asses out. But I have dried lavender I use at home, and what I'll do is I'll mix that with a little bit of peppermint oil, and then I'll rub it on my pillowcases, and then I'm knocked out. Okay.
Guys, you're probably not going to attract to that. I'm not mad at you. That would be kind of a girl thing generally.
Call
guys
your girlfriend.
Guys are going to be like, no, not lavender. I'm not going to tell you what scent to. But
little eucalyptus.
Well, I mean, and don't get me wrong. The thing is, if your brain is overactive at the end of the day, then you still have energy to burn.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I hate to be a shit, but do some push-ups, do some sit-ups. I mean, like, I'm not a big like working out sucks, and I do it every day because at the end of the day, I feel better on the overall. Working out, when I did that 75 hard, the 45-minute workout at the end of the day, like it really sucked. Working out at the end of the day really sucks, but it does burn energy. And if you follow that through with a hot shower, generally, yeah, that's about the time that you're ready for bed. But the point being, I have battled insomnia all my life, and I have an overactive brain, and there are many ways to try and slow it down. But if it latches onto something, write it down.
Yeah.
Because for whatever reason, by writing it down, that your brain will let it go. So that is my best advice for an overactive brain when you need to sleep, because I can tell you, sleep is really important. Like, and it is such a good thing. Like, I love sleep. Like, I don't know why. It's just like, I mean, I say I don't know why. I want to be healthy on the overall. But I don't have FOMO. I'm like, sometimes sleep is just more appealing than talking to people or hanging out, or
I have to have my 8 hours.
Yeah. I don't, sometimes I strive for the 8 hours. As long as I'm getting 6 to 7, I'm a pretty happy camper in general. But yeah, ain't nothing like 8 hours sleep.
Yeah.
And the people that, cause I know a couple people out there, Jim Cramer, on CNBC, he's one of them. Trump is another one that I mean, generally they only operate on like 3 to 5 hours a night of sleep, and they have their entire life. And there are plenty of people that are wired that way. Man, I'm glad I'm not one of them. That drive me nuts, because there ain't nothing like a good nap and still trying to get 7 to 8 hours worth of sleep. Like, sleep is the shit, and you should not worry about what you're missing out. Your body will thank you for getting the sleep. So,
you should do sleepy as fuck.
You know what? I mean, I'm not sleepy as, but if I'm sleepy as, it's because I didn't get my 6 to 8 hours. But okay. Well, I would say that that concludes or wraps up this episode of a Q and J piece. So until next time, you guys have a good night.